Well, attention property owners, we've got some news that you are going to want to hear. I've got Tara Music and Benji Tolbert with me today, and they are both representing the finance department here within the city of Bristol. Did I say that right?
You did.
Okay,
good job, ma'am.
Thank you very much. And they both have some great news for us. I don't know if we all want to say property taxes are great, but look, it is a fact of life. So we are here and we're going to inform you on some things that are going on. So tell me a little bit about the process and where we're at right now.
Okay, first of all, we get our tax roll from Sullivan County. They do all the assessments, they do the finished product.
Okay.
And then it comes to us to do the billing. We do the billing the middle to the end of October. The bills go out, and they are due by January the 5th, depending on how that day falls. If it's on the weekend, then it's the following Monday that they're due.
Okay, a couple of things to point out, and Tara, you mentioned this right before we started, that there is a bill for 2012 that if it hasn't been paid, it is due.
Yes, one thing that I don't know if property tax owners in the city understand is when we assess taxes, you're assessed on January 1st, and the bill goes out in October. So typically, if we bill October, you'll have about 3.5 months to pay, or 3 months and a few days. And then people who don't pay, we send a delinquent notice to in 30 days, and it's just it's just a nice reminder in case you forgot to pay, because you do get penalty of 5%, and you get interest of 1.5% a month. So we try to get to where we can minimize anything by failure to pay, that we get the bill down as low as possible for the taxpayers. And then the way that it works in Sullivan County is you have another, from the day it's due, it would be 18 months. And so right now we're collecting 2 years. We just billed 2013 and 2012. And 2012 we can collect, the end of the 18 months will be March 31st.
So the double whammy. We got a double whammy.
So if you don't pay by March 31st, then you get turned over to the Sullivan County Chancery Court for further collection.
Oh, we do not want that to happen to you.
No. And then you have additional fees. So one thing I think taxpayers get confused on is when they go to Chancery Court, the taxpayers will owe an additional 10% for an attorney fee, and they owe $40 more per parcel to pay. So what we're trying to do is, if you owe on the 2012 tax year, please come try to pay before March 31st, and then you won't have the additional fees.
Okay, so now we know that we owe some money, and we want some payment options. Are there payment options? Or do you just pay it all at once?
You have to pay the total bill at one time. There are no split payments or anything like that. And payments can be made through the mail. We have 2 P.O. boxes. And we have a drop box that they can be put in. And you can pay by check, money order, or cashier's check. And we do not recommend cash as an internal control.
And how are they assessed, you know, and how often do they go up, our property taxes?
The one thing with this assessment process is Sullivan County Assessor's Office does a reassessment every 4 years. And the 2013 tax year was a reassessment year. I know most of the customers at home will have noticed that their appraised value went either up or down. And the city as a whole, the value went down. So one thing that you do in that process is the assessor will set the new tax rate, and we try to keep the revenue stream level. And so then the tax rate changes, and City Council will pass what they call a certified rate to keep revenue level with the new values, and then we either can change the taxes to raise or decrease for the city's budget. And so we just went through that process this past calendar year, and we won't be doing for another one until 2017 as far as a valuation review. But taxes are subject to change each year, and each year council will reset the tax rate.
Alrighty, gotcha. Well, what are we missing? Am I missing anything?
We do have a tax relief program for the elderly. If you are 65 years and older and your income is under a certain amount, you can check with the finance department and possibly qualify for the tax relief program.
And that's actually a pretty good program because they're eligible for tax relief from the state of Tennessee.
Absolutely.
And the city council approved in the past, they get a city match, which has ranged normally around $32, and I think the state somewhere around $129 if eligible. So it helps people. It's there's an income threshold that changes each year for the elderly, and disabled veterans are also eligible if permanently disabled. Is that correct, Benji?
100%.
And that's not an age thing. That's more on if they're permanently disabled.
if they're permanently disabled, that
Okay.
doesn't, the age doesn't factor in.
Okay.
No.
So, and where do we find out about all of this? Do we just
They
call
can
you?
contact the finance department. We have information that the state sends us each year, and we have an application that we fill out ourselves, and then there is other information that is required from the applicant.
So is it best if I am in that category to just come in? Is that
To
the
apply,
easiest?
you need to come in
Okay.
because we have to have your signature.
Okay.
And if you apply, Benji knows more details than I do on this. Normally, the things they would need to bring just to save them time would be they have to be a property owner and
Okay.
own the address, and they would bring proof of identification. And we ask for a wage because we have to verify
Okay.
the wage information so we can submit to the state online for the process. And normally, for Social Security, they bring what proof of documentation have you typically?
For an applicant, we have to have a driver's license, a Social Security card, and a Medicare card, and the previous year's Social Security income.
Okay.
And if you are married, we have to have the same information from your spouse.
Okay.
And most people, the good news is if you're eligible in Bristol, it's the same for Sullivan County. So we don't work with Sullivan County's office as far as doing the paperwork, but we can also then help refer them to Sullivan County. And so right now there could be, Benji works very closely with Sullivan County's office to make sure we get them both relief. But our concern, and Sullivan County works well with us, though, that people could be getting Sullivan County but not getting the city's relief.
Oh, okay.
But city residents are eligible for both.
Oh, see, that's great. I bet you didn't know that.
They can
I
apply
did
in the
not know
city
that.
and the county both.
Oh,
And
see,
get
that's
relief against
great.
county
Awesome.
taxes also.
Yeah, that is great to know. Very good to know. So now what's the number that we call you at to find out more?
Okay, the property tax number is area code 423-989-5500, extension 2022.
Alrighty.
And we currently have several customer service representatives to take the calls, but I will, not a warning, that's a bad way to say, but just notify taxpayers that during the tax process it sometimes can build up and it's hard to get through just because closer to the due date, it's harder
Right.
to contact limited staff with numerous people, and it's also if you don't want to wait in line to pay.
So call now so that you're not waiting till March 30th and
Yes.
everybody else is on the phone. So this is great. Ladies, am I missing anything that all of us property owners need to know from you two?
The only thing property owners may want to know is several times with, I'm trying to think questions frequently asked, is they'll question if I put the payment in the mail by the due date. And what will happen, and March 31st is the non-typical, so it may throw them a little bit, is we do honor postmarks for a few days, but if you do not pay in person in the office by 5 o'clock on the 31st, we cannot get the fees waived. So some people come in the first week of April and say, I knew, but I just missed it by a few hours. There is
needs to
nothing we
be-
can do. And property taxes, you said it earlier when it's a good topic, but it can also be bad. It's the major tax source or revenue source for the general fund. And there's just not a lot of leadway with property taxes as far as adjustments. It's one of those, it's all taxes you pay by that date or it is the due date. So sometimes people will get very frustrated with that if they're just late a little bit.
Look, we just have to know it's a reality being a property owner.
Yes.
And we
That's
just,
correct.
and it's good to know the dates because there are a lot of dates when different things are due and sometimes they can get confused and so this is good to know.
One thing, I'm sorry to interrupt, but as a property owner too, one problem we do run into is a lot of taxpayers, if they're new to the community, won't notice the due dates, which is why we're hoping this interview will help with that, or they won't realize how the process works. And so we have a lot of people that will come in after the tax due date and say, I didn't receive a bill. And the way it works in state Tennessee is failure to receive the bill, or if it gets lost, does not relieve you of the obligation to pay.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So if they do not get a bill, you will still be assessed penalty of interest, and it's just important to call, come by, or in some way
Absolutely.
the property owner has that responsibility. And that is some things I think people get very frustrated with if they didn't know.
Because is it sent out on the card?
It is.
Yeah, and sometimes that can get.
Correct.
So it's our responsibility. We need to call Benji.
And we also have email, if that would work. If
Absolutely.
everyone's getting more electronic, it's propertytaxes@bristoltn.org.
Okay.
And someone should respond to that very quickly, and we can send print screens if they need documentation that way.
Oh, perfect.
So just an easier way to do it if you prefer to do that method instead of a voicemail or coming in person. Or getting through.
Yeah. All righty. Am I missing anything?
There's also something that I have run into lately. If someone purchases a home during the tax year and they don't get a tax bill, Usually the first bill they get is a delinquent notice.
Oh, okay.
So if a home is purchased sometime during the tax year, they need to check with their mortgage company or whoever did the closing on their home
Right.
to make sure
That
who
it
is
gets-
responsible for the taxes.
Right.
Yeah.
We do
And-
get the information from Sullivan County Assessor's Office, and if the address change isn't made there, that is why they get misdirected. And we do get address changes and update, but by the time the
course.
assessor gets it to us and we make it, is how we're losing some people with getting the initial mailings.
So this is really just on us property owners. We really need to be responsible, and we need to know that it's coming up end of March, and that we need to either make a phone call or an email and make sure that we are current so that we're not delinquent, because I don't want to end up, or any of you to end up in court. That would be bad.
And I think our biggest concern is particularly in light of the economy in the past several years. We just don't want anyone to
Yeah.
pay any additional fees because of the process with where it's turned over to the court for collections if it was
Right.
just a week or two earlier because of failure to know.
Yeah, that all makes sense. Well, we are very glad, well, semi-glad to have them on today. No, we're very glad to have you all here today, because this is very important information and we need to know it. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us. And thank you for tuning in to Inside Bristol today.